Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Women Atheists Unload. Today, we got a special one for you. We're doing a fundraiser for Black non-believers, but we're also going to be speaking about the 19th Amendment, what it means to women, what it means to women of color, and also what it means in this particular election as we highlight a specific person named Mr. Mark Robinson. But before I actually get into all of that, I'm not doing this by myself. I have a wonderful panel of badass women that's going to help with this particular conversation. And I'm just going to go ahead and just ask if we can just go ahead and bring them up full mass right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Let's just go ahead and just do the introductions first. We have Miss Mandisa Thomas, founder and president of Black Nonbelievers. We also have other Women Atheists Unload hosts, Miss Maya Adkisson, who also does her own YouTube channel. And the last but definitely not least is a very special person who also lives where the now Lieutenant Governor is, who is the lead affiliate of the Black Nonbelievers in Charlotte, North Carolina, Miss Tina Marshall. But before we actually go into all that, I just want to read a little bit about Tina. She's an she's an activist for issues for reproductive justice, prison abolition, and also separation of church and state. She is the founder of Black Abortion Defense League Battle, lead organizer for Black Nonbelievers of Charlotte, and supporting member of the Second Chance Alliance. She applies her humanist values in electoral work, focusing on those issues in her current home of Charlotte and throughout North Carolina. Tina has also organized and led rallies in defense of Roe and has spoken in Raleigh with the governor. Her abolition work includes an annual 30-plus day vigil in front of the governor's mansion to ask for the release of incarcerated persons from the inhumane North Carolina prison system. And when not doing activist and electoral work, Tina is an avid collector of vintage Black dolls. Oh, I should have told you to make sure that you actually have like a Black doll that you actually collect, like with us on the panel,
next time.
Next time, right? To make her talk and everything. It's cool. Right. So, guys, yeah, I know that everyone is a little bit familiar, and I know that Tina is a bit familiar with Mark Robinson, but I think that we should make our audience members a little bit more familiar with Mark Robinson. But before that happens, guys, if you notice at the bottom of the screen is a URL to help to support Black Nonbelievers. Excuse me, that's going to be happening a lot throughout this podcast, just letting you know, which is https tiny.url.com/WAUANDBN. And it's also at the top of the screen right above my head as well. So make sure you guys go to that URL and please, 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 please give. And then after you give some more to the work of Black Nonbelievers. We're going to be reminding you as this podcast goes forward. Okay. All right. So let's introduce everybody to the Mr. Robinson. And we're going to start with a video from the indisputable Dr. Ritchie, who covered some remarks that Mark Robinson made back in 2020 when he was vying for the lieutenant governor position at that time period. Take it away.
GOP nominee for governor, lieutenant governor currently. Well, he says women should not have the right to vote. We need to go back to that, according to him. Here it is.
Republicans are the party of freedom and equality. Yes. This narrative about Republicans being racist and cannot stand Mexican people and Black people and women is ridiculous. Idiotic guy was on stage with Candace Owens a few days ago and asked her, what America are we going back to make America great again? The one where women couldn't vote, or black people were swinging from trees. I would say to him, if I was standing in front of him, I absolutely want to go back to the America where women couldn't vote. Do you know why? Because in those days, we had people who fought for real social change, and they were called Republicans. And they are the reason why women can vote today. Those days that he talked about when black folks were swinging from trees, guess who it was out there fighting to bring that to an end, to bring Jim Crow to an end? It was Republicans. Right. So that's the America we want to bring back. We want to bring back the America where Republicans and principles and true ideas of freedom rule.
Put him a full mask. This is the miseducation of one dumb Negro. So let me explain the fallacy in his own proclamation. The Republican Party has had many, many transformations. The Republican Party that he's referring to was more progressive than, let's say, well, people that wanted to keep racism alive. You had the Confederates and others. But all of them were ran by very rich and old white men, kind of like today. And they had their particular racist, biased positions that they agreed on across party lines. Black people not voting was one of them. Women not voting, another one. Super Tuesday, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who won the GOP primary to become the party's nominee for governor of North Carolina, with the help, by the way, of female voters. Well, in 2020, at an event hosted by the Republican women, understand where he's at now.
Oh my God.
The Republican women of Pitt County. That's where he's at. Robinson said he'd, quote, absolutely like to return to the days when the 19th Amendment did not exist, when women did not have the right to vote. Per the HuffPost, this room full of women, as you saw, they got quiet, all right? So they applauded him initially, then they were like, bruh, you just lost every white woman in this building, all right? So he's in a room full of women. It goes quiet as he spoke, according to the HuffPost. There was a faint in the background. Somebody said, that's right. Could be heard.
The one person like, oh, I thought we were all clapping.
Right, exactly.
Oh, my bad.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they could be heard when Robinson later said Republicans ended Jim Crow laws. In fact, lawmakers of both parties in Congress, as I said, and President Lyndon Johnson ended Jim Crow laws by passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They were all counterfeited collectively together to change their mind together. The North Carolina Republicans, longing for the days when women couldn't vote, ties into his history of demeaning women and mocking feminism, especially on social media. He's claimed that feminism was created by Satan. I did not know he met Satan before. Obviously, he knows him. He said that men who identify as feminists are about as manly as a pair of lace panties and are weak-minded, jelly-backed men. He's routinely referred to feminists as femme Nazis. And in one particular colorful post, described those who support equal rights for women as sexist, hairy, armpit-having, poo-poo hat-wearing pinkos, end quote. He is the GOP nominee for governor of North Carolina, currently the lieutenant governor of the state. There's more. The only thing worse than a woman who doesn't know her place, this is his quote, is a man who doesn't know his. He wrote this on Facebook, December 2017. Channeling the late televangelist Pat Robertson, he has claimed that Satan himself is using lesbianism and feminism to destroy traditional families.
All right. Well, that is Mark Robinson, and I have a little bit more that we want to go ahead and share. We're going to go ahead and put up this particular article by CBS. Who is Mark Robinson, the GOP nominee for North Carolina governor, has a history of inflammatory remarks. So, beginning here, it says in Washington, when Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, took the podium earlier this month after winning the Republican nomination for governor, he pledged not to allow his campaign to be dragged into the mud. But in the 2 weeks since the primary, inflammatory remarks he made on a range of topics have been rapidly resurfacing, flagged by reporters and opponents. Robinson's inflammatory comments have spanned a number of topics, but he's been especially vocal on LGBTQ plus issues. At a church service last year, Robinson says he feels sick when he sees a church flying a rainbow pride flag, which he called a direct spit in the face of God Almighty. I just like to interject, patooey. Moving on. And he said that there's no reason that children should be taught about transgenderism, homosexuality, any of that filth. He also said that if he's a movement in this country. I'm sorry, if there is a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement. He claimed that we've pushed homosexuality over the top, predicting in a Facebook post, mark my words, pedophilia is next, which will be closely followed by the end of civilization as we know it. We can go ahead and put that down. And also, people, if you are curious to read the remaining of the article, it will be, we're going to go ahead and just like stick it in the chat so that you can see it and then read it at your own time period. So, yeah, I know. That's what a wonderful way to start a fundraiser for Black non-believers, right? Oh my goodness. Tina, I'm coming to you first because you live in North Carolina. You are very familiar with Mr. Robinson and as said rhetoric and even some of the things that he wants to do specifically in your state. So with actually watching the video and hearing some of the things that he has said in the past and even some of the things that he has said going forward, what are your thoughts?
So 4 years ago, when he was running for lieutenant governor, I had gone to a debate of all of the candidates, all parties, just to check out who was running. I already knew who I was going to vote for, but I just wanted to check it out. And here he comes, and he's just talking all this crazy talk. And I said to myself, "Oh, he'll never win. He'll never win. He'll never. This clown." And I figured that he would probably come in last. And instead, he became our lieutenant governor. Now, I've never met him myself, but I have friends, activist friends that have met him, and they said that he believes everything that he says. And that is what's so scary. He believes it. That is what is so scary. I am frightened for North Carolina. I really am. At this last primary, he received almost 700,000 votes. The from the opposition candidate, Josh Stein, received 460,000 votes. Yeah, it does not look good now. I hear people spinning all kinds of stuff, but at this point, I'm afraid for us. I am really, really afraid for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm afraid for you all too. But unfortunately, this is like, sentiment that is pretty much echoed throughout the United States. So I'm going to go to my immediate, well, on my screen, I think that you're to my right. So I'm going to go to I believe immediately to my right that I'm looking at right now, Mandisa. What do you think? What were your thoughts when you actually listened to Robinson and the things that he had to say?
Yeah, well, first, allow me to say Happy World Atheist Day to all of the atheists out there.
Yes, happy
So
green circle day. Yes.
yes, but also part of me just thought that he's another scandal waiting to happen because he is just so loud and standing strong and wrong, especially against the LGBTQ community. And we've all seen where this ends up, right? Let's see if he's going to be the next person that gets caught with some young, either trans or LGBTQ person. Let's see who's going to come out against him, because that's often how these things end up. They stand so strong against these things, and in the back, that's what they're doing. That's what they're engaging in. That's what he sounds like. And also, what is scary, like Tina said, it is scary that he is a Black man upholding white supremacy. That is exactly what he's doing. And I know we've talked about this before. And now they are using, these Black folks, even if and then there's a history of dissent within Black communities, especially in politics. But when you see these folks, you have to wonder, like, who do they think they're really scoring points with? Or who are they going to score points with when they speak this rhetoric that is so anti-Black, that is so anti-woman, that is anti-children? It is clearly the antithesis of education. It is the antithesis of what he thinks are family values. And he just looks really like an ignorant buffoon. I mean, and I'm speaking just as an individual, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like that old guard of folks who may have just gotten lucky enough to get in with the right circle of people, and boom, there he is. But again, it also just sounds like he's a scandal waiting to happen because of how strongly he is spewing these things. And so I'm just like, I'm looking at my imaginary watch. So in a way, it's almost comical, but it also is, it's also very infuriating and very sad to see that this person who clearly has no good no good sense of history, and just trying to put that spin on the Republican Party, like the gentleman said, not going through the different changes that the parties have made. That's such it's such an overblown and it's such a misstatement, to say the least. And so, but yeah, my main thing is, buddy, you're next. You just wait. And people better get out there. They better get out there and vote. Doesn't matter that he looks like one of us. He clearly is not one of us. So y'all better get ready.
Well, you was going to say, not one of us are sane people? Because I was going to say that. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Mr. Robinson, look what you have done to us. Okay, Maya, I'm coming to you. What are your thoughts? Were you heard? Go ahead.
I think it's ignorance. It's so crazy because, like, when I look at him initially, I see Carrie Lake, I see Tim Scott, I see Candace Owens, I see, I don't know, Jesse Lee Peterson, I think might actually be like legit stupid. But the rest of them, I really do think are kind of spinning a yarn. What we see is a lot of people lying for money. We see we see that with Candace Owens very clearly. We see that with Tim Scott now very clearly. He's running to be the VP. And running this kind of line. And so when I see a Black man running for Republican office saying these things, my mind initially goes to, oh, he's looking for money, power, and influence. He's looking to, I mean, it's more of a, hey, fellow white people, I'm just like you, is what I initially see. I'm kind of concerned that Tina is saying that people who've gotten close to him say that he is serious. I don't know what to do with that. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whether he believes it or not. The consequences are the same. I am concerned about that the Democrats aren't combating the narrative that Black people, white people, Hispanic people all hear this and say, oh, okay, there's nothing to counter it. And so they're only fed one narrative, which is very concerning, which is very self-defeatist. I am so tired of hearing Black people perpetuate this type of narrative, feeling this way about themselves, hearing, I mean, and I live in Baltimore City, where, on the West Side, we have these underprivileged youths. We have to bring people into the city from where they were to tell them, no, you deserve better. You can have better. That being educated and having a good job isn't just for white people. You don't have to be a singer, a football player, or a drug dealer. You have so many more options than that. But that they have to be told that. And that it's just innate, almost. Not innate, but like white children don't grow up having to be told that. It is on some level to them understood. And it's because of people like him who will sell out an entire generation so that he can have power now. Hurts me to my core. And for him to lie and say, oh, well, back in, when women didn't have the right to vote, those were the days when Republicans, progressives, mind you, but he won't say that part. That Republicans were fighting harder. Yeah. Those progressives were women fighting for the right to vote. Before we got, this is bad. Susan B. Anthony put legislation into Congress, I believe 1878-ish. Women had at that point been fighting for a century to vote. For nearly a century, probably since the inception of the country. Because we all remember hearing, at first, even though all white men could vote, states legislated so that only white landowners voted. Non-landowners did not like that, fought for their right. White men fought for their right. Black men got it shortly after we got it with the 15th Amendment for Black men. And then women had to fight. And even at that point, we have to remember that the 19th Amendment secured voting rights for white women. Black people didn't really get security until like the Voting Rights Act that came 45 years later. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember numbers in my head. It's not a strong suit. The one thing we've always fought for is the right to vote. For him to diminish that is concerning. And that is, every time I hear him or any of this type of rhetoric, I think about the history of voting rights and the people that have suffered, beaten, jailed, died so that we could have that, and how he's just spitting in their faces. And it is disgusting to me. But I'll stop filibustering and open it to someone else to talk.
You're muted.
Tina, you're muted.
You're still muted.
Yeah, when he first announced that he was going to run for governor, I remember going into the community, into the Black community, and I would hear a lot of Black folks say, I'm going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for him because I want to see a Black man as governor of North Carolina. And that's when I saw that there was a lot of misinformation about Lieutenant Governor Robinson. On Black radio here, they've already started the day after the primary of educating the Black community about what he believes. And they're just playing his little speeches back on radio. So you can hear it. You can hear it. He believes that there's something that he says about, if you weren't doing anything wrong, you wouldn't have been pulled over by the police. Love that one. Love that one. The other thing that really concerns me about him is that North Carolina is the only state in the South now that has abortion. We have abortion available at 12 weeks. He claims that he wants to wipe it completely out, no matter the reason. No one can have an abortion. That really concerns me. The people that he panders to are those same protesters that I have to deal with at the clinic every week. Those protesters thought 2 years ago that they had it in the black bag, that they were going to get rid of abortion, but they didn't. This time, I think they really do think that they're going to get rid of it. And like I said, he received over 200,000 more votes than Josh Stein. I don't know what the Democratic Party, I don't know what they're doing. And like I said, I'm afraid. I am really afraid. Excuse me.
No, understandable. I think that one of the issues that, and this is just like from talking to, other Black voters around, that they feel a bit left out when it comes to the Democratic Party, and especially when it comes to policy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I met this one person that I was introduced to, that wanted to, work on some stuff here in the city, and she was telling me that there was, I guess, like this. I forgot what the name of this bill is. I'm going to try to look it up, but it's basically a bill that was signed into law, I want to say in 2018 by Trump, that was introduced by a Democrat in Virginia about basically setting up a commission of different folks who would do some type of project on how they can do a commemoration for contributors who happen to be African American to the country. So, and I think I just found it. What this bill is called? It was called 400 Years of African American History Commission Act, that was signed into law by the 115th Congress. And I think that it was a report to accompany HR 1242. And I'm just going to read just the top part. It says like the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, to whom were referred the bill HR 1242 to establish the 400 Years of African American History Commission, and for other purposes, having considered the same report favorable thereon without amendment, and recommended that the bill do pass. Now, basically, what this bill does is that it would gather like a different, like a 15-person commission that could, employ and grant money to different nonprofits that will, come up with ways of how to commemorate 400 years of African American contributions to the country.
Hmm.
So they're starting at from the 1619 portion up until like 2019 plus, right? But and I think that they can actually even give up grants up to $20,000 according to the commission for this bill has yet disbanded since 2020. I have yet to find out what exactly was commemorated, but when I but the way that it was presented to me by this young person was that it was like Trump reaching out to the Black community as an olive branch to us, and that we are should just go ahead and just leave the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is not doing anything specifically for Black folk. But the devil is in the details, y'all. And again, like I said, it's a commemorative bill. It's not a bill that would affect any type of social or economic change in our community whatsoever, let alone addressing some of the very real issues that we deal with as a people. And so I said, this is on par with signing Juneteenth into law as a national holiday that Biden did his first year in office. And so I don't understand how, because like according to her, she said that on his second term he was going to introduce a more robust economic stimulus package, I guess specifically for African Americans. I know that he tried to come up with something called the Platinum Plan, which was a joke. And so like this is supposed to be like our okay, well, look, well, the Republicans are going to be good for us because the Democrats, we don't know what they're doing and they sure not talking to us, right? But but when you actually see the type of things that they're pushing, it's especially like when you talk about like abortion, transgenderism, and this basically this rolling back any type of rights that we would have, even when it comes to voting, because like the main party that does a lot of like ripping away of the Voter Rights Act in 1965. And by the way, Maya, it was 100 years after emancipation, the 13th Amendment, that we actually got the Voter Rights Act of 1965. That
Oh, no, I was saying it was 45
yeah.
years after the 19th Amendment is what I was saying, which was
Oh
1920.
yeah, the 19th Amendment. Okay,
So
gotcha.
then, yeah.
1921. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
So
around there.
so yeah. So we got like everything that they're really pushing for, everything that they're pushing for really would be very bad for us. And we know that we have seen like how trigger laws, especially in the South, have really affected Black women in the adverse. And I know that you all have heard about the young girl from Mississippi who was forced to give birth after she was raped, even though that Mississippi supposedly gives an accommodation for rape victims. However, they did not grant it to her, and nor did her mother have the money to send her to my city in order for her, because that's the closest place that she can go in order for her to get an abortion, a 9-hour drive. That's crazy. But I don't, I listen to people like him, and I do get very concerned about like, what our community is thinking when they say that I'm going to support him. Is it that they're not really listening to what he's saying? Or what, or is it are they just color struck? I don't know. Tina, I'll start from you and then go around.
I meant to say this before. Our people are conservative at our root.
Yeah.
And Mark Robinson, with his religiosity, it speaks to our people. It speaks to our people. He's pro-gun. He's anti-gay. He's anti-abortion. Even though at the clinic, what I see about 75, 80% of the women getting abortions are African American, nobody in the community talks about it. he speaks to the religiosity of our people. He weaponizes religion. And that's what our folks hear. You know, God said, Satan did. And I mean, you know how we are. Now we are, you know, and I would love to find out how many Black Democrats voted for him in, you know, or I guess they wouldn't have been able to vote for him in the primaries, or could they have? But at any rate,
no, unless they actually
no.
have unless they actually asked for a Republican ballot, they wouldn't have been able to vote for him in the primaries.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's state dependent. I don't know how your state does. Like, I'm an independent. I can't vote in the primary for for either side.
I know. I saw his name though. I saw his name, so I'm you know. But that's what it is. He speaks to the religiosity of our people, and I don't know. I've said this often: is that how do you fight God? How do you fight God?
Right. Yeah, which is a huge issue.
Yeah.
And it was kind of why I was lamenting, like,
ahead,
why
Ryan.
this narrative is taking over, because you need to give people education to be able to counter misinformation. If there's, you know, I say all the time, like, flat earth brought me to the skeptic community. Because when you just hear one side, it's just like, yeah, why don't we believe in a flat earth? Like this, you know, I have an engineer saying all of these things, and I'm not an engineer, so I need to listen to other engineers tell me why we don't believe in this. And then, so what actually got me, and what I still listen to now on certain platforms, are the debates between the two sides. I need to hear how another side counters the other side. The side with misinformation never comes with facts. The side that is living in reality always brings the facts. And I don't know, that's for me personally. I value facts, but not all people do. A lot of people value feelings, or, you know, what makes them feel good. You know, we got George H.W. Bush because a lot of Americans thought that they would enjoy sharing a beer with him, which is why local elections make so much of a difference. You really need to get in and educate your people in a way that resonates with them on what the best things are. Why are so many Black people, I think, Cynthia, your question was, why are so many Black people gravitating towards him, or something along those lines? I think it is, one, the religiosity, but two, it's the misinformation.
Like, what is the compelling argument that would make, you know, folk that happen to be in the African American community gravitate to a person like this? It's fine. It's kind of funny. You can put
and real quick before you say that, I think also a narrative that we've been pushing is you need to vote Black. You need to get people that look like you in office because of representation. And I don't think we've been pushing the why as much with that. Why representation matters. It's not just obviously we would love everybody of every shade to be able to have a job. That's very important. Mm-hmm. But you want people that look like you there because they're supposed to be representing you. And if they're not representing you, then it doesn't matter who the parents were, or, you know, what their lineage is. I'm sorry, I'm going to shut up and let you finish your thought.
No, I was just saying that there, and just going back to what you said about misinformation. And yeah, I do agree about this whole thing about I gotta vote for somebody to look like me, right? Because representation matters, and it does, it really does. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because they look like you, they represent your interests. And I think that that's something that is missing. And I think that also, I don't know what it is. Well, maybe I do. Misinformation is extremely rampant nowadays. Mm-hmm. extremely rampant. I was watching an old video that I did, I want to say at least about 2-3 years ago on nonprofits with me, V La Bianca, Martin, Robert, and Johnny Angel on the ACA. And it was one point that we were talking about, and this is like right when COVID vaccines started to become available for the public. And we were discussing how right away, as soon as the mRNA vaccines started to become something that was in the news, you got so many different people that all of a sudden became overnight virologists. Overnight virologists, even though they were like Maya, your friend, who's an engineer, who all of a sudden knows everything about aeronautics, right?
Right.
and like even like in Florida, the Surgeon General, who's a cardiologist, recommended that that don't get the vaccine for COVID because it is the work of the devil. And also, there's a new measles outbreak in Florida, and you shouldn't get your children vaccinated for measles because um, it would just be best for them just to stick their head out the window, and then they'll be all right. And I'm just
Mm.
like, and I think that like this argument from authority, like all of a sudden, like if you're like really confident in what you say, and you can feign like some type of title or something, that all of a sudden just gives you credence just to say whatever's on your mind. I'm not I'm so baffled by this whole life. But Mandisa, I'm coming to you because I know that one of the things that I know that BN does really is like hold space for people who are, dealing with certain things, and especially like for people who have been affected so adversely by religion that, it really has affected, how they live their lives, how they maneuver, and then like they find themselves on when they're coming out of that on the other side, how to deal with all of this, right? Including how to even deal with once adverse political views. What's been like your experience with that, and also kind of help, and how you kind of like help people over that hump when they have been indoctrinated for so long?
Oh boy. So one of the things that I've always maintained is that people can leave religion and the God behind, the God concept behind, but there's also this other baggage that people bring with them, this other indoctrinated baggage. Being raised religious is not the only form of indoctrination, and going back to a lot of what we see in religion and in society is still this huge appeal to male authority in particular. And I can see this is being the case with Lieutenant Governor Robinson, is that he is this Black man who is saying these godly things, and all of a sudden now he's just right. And a lot of this now does not have to be like right in front of your face. A lot of it is subconscious. And this is part of the problem with institutional racism, institutional injustice, because it doesn't have to be directly implemented on you. Once it's embedded into your psyche, it is hard to get rid of. And I think, especially as a woman leader in this community, there are often many appeals, once again, to male authority. The male voices still tend to be more dominant, more referenced, and it's not that people are doing it intentionally. Some may be, but they're not necessarily thinking about that. And there's a whole bunch of there's talk about like diversity and inclusion, and we have to remember that it isn't just what we look like. It's also what we do. It's also who we're putting forward And when we are still, because even Black men are still considered male authority, like Maya said, Black men pretty much before Black women did. So, and hearing Lieutenant Governor Robinson speak on a time where he would have been lynched for, for speaking up, so to speak. That was a time where he was not guaranteed rights either. So it's capitalizing on this misinformation and using these and a tendency for people to point out these buzzwords that sound good, like that appeal to emotion, that appeal to people's biases, that are impacting how they make their decisions in the civic engagement process, and also how they engage people on a regular basis. So the thing that we also try to challenge people to do is look not just to go beyond how they've been indoctrinated into the God concept, but also what that religious indoctrination has done for how they view a lot of things and still view a lot of things, societal wise. That has to change as well. And when we still have a community and people who still feed into those religious concepts, like I said, we have an uphill battle ahead of us here, especially those of us who are standing strong as Black women. And we know how we know the hatred, especially against Black women, especially strong, assertive Black women. People might not say it out loud, but they damn sure show it. It shows in the lack of support. It shows in who is being elected, and it shows how they're being listened to, even if it is against their own interests. So what we try to do, like said, value, look at the evidence, but also look inside yourself to see what it is that you could possibly be doing differently now that you don't have this religious mindset anymore. You have to start looking at other things differently as well. And it doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything, except for when there are infringements on our human rights. There should be no questions about that. And when we see other Black folks encouraging that because of the historical narrative, I was going to bring up the Tuskegee syphilis study, which there's still a lot of misinformation on. There's been reports that Black men were deliberately infected with syphilis, which is not the case. The CDC and Tuskegee University were trying to study long-term effects of syphilis in African-American men. The problem is that they basically took advantage of poor illiterate Black folks. They just studied them. They did not give them treatments, even though their penicillin was made available. They were barred from seeking treatment. And so it just became really unethical and how these men suffered and died. And so people are taking that information. And yes, there is a long history of medical racism, economic racism, and these parties are flipping these things and taking advantage of Black folks' mistrust in politics. And so in some way, it is really up to us, even as the quote unquote little people, to continue to combat these narratives. And it's hard as hell, especially when we're going up against a community that is still so rooted in those beliefs, those institutional beliefs. We still got a long road ahead of us, but this is one of the reasons why our work is so important.
Speaking of work being important, again, I would like to also very much so encourage you all to go to tiny.url.com/WAUANDBN. And please give, because obviously the conversation that we are talking about right now, we need as much support as possible to really battle. Hey, Tina. Battle misinformation and also all the different horrible issues that we are dealing with in our community. Mandisa, you said something very interesting. when you were talking about how, even though like religiosity is quite prevalent in our community, and we can measure this, right? We already have statistics from Pew, one of them, on basically how high the prevalency of, you know, theocrats that we got in our community, right? And then you also brought up this whole thing about how, you know, parties and people who are in power take the, you know, the thing that really would be, I guess, like a grabber for us, like because we are religious, to use those things to actually vie for power instead of actually addressing the issues that we face as a people. And part of it, I really would agree that misinformation is one of them. And I'm pretty sure, Tina, I want you to speak on this a little bit more, especially when it comes to abortion, because like we hear we know for a fact that abortion was not considered sinful until the 70s.
Mhm.
It wasn't until we actually had, like, well, I know the Catholics, but they're a different breed, right? But this was not something that the Protestants took up as an actual policy that they were trying to get overturned until, like, you know, I would say like shortly after the Liberty University was made to take in African American students, because they were going to lose federal funding if they didn't. And of course, this was shortly after the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And even after the Roe v. Wade was first established and ruled on in, I want to say, what, 1971, 1972, something like that.
Uh,
The
72. Yeah, because it was 50
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
yeah, 50 years. Yeah, that the Southern Baptist Convention actually wrote a letter praising the Supreme Court's decision. And but then, you know, all of a sudden it becomes like, oh no, well, we can't overtly say, you know, inward, 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 you know, Southern strategy. We just gonna say, you know, let's get rid of abortion because it's evil and Jesus don't like it because he said it in his wine and he showed up in toast, right? And was like, oh, I weep for the little children that have not been born. Sorry, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but you know me. Anyway, describe to me how in our community, misinformation and this whole idea of sin, even though that it really wasn't considered sinful per se, becomes such a thing. Or like maybe you can even recall like some conversations that you had with people within our community that, you know, really believes this stuff.
So when I first started doing the abortion work, and this is a little over 3 years ago, first thing I did is I put on my Black non-believers shirt to go out and help escort and help defend. And this shocked me. But sisters would see me coming up with my shirt on, and they would say, oh, no, no, I don't believe in that. No, stay away from me. They were more afraid of me being an atheist than they were of the protesters out there screaming and calling them names, you know, telling them they're going to go to hell. So I had to learn from that, and I had to rethink, why am I out there? So that's when I created Battle. And I didn't, certainly anything I do it with my humanist values, but I don't necessarily tell the folks that are going out there to get an abortion that I what a secular humanist is, or that I'm an atheist. I've had to tell Black folks, this is the newest thing that I tell Black folks, is that we decolonized Jesus in this parking lot. We decolonized the Bible. Just because these white folks over here say it doesn't make it true. And that's to give comfort. That is to give comfort. I can't, one of the reasons, and another reason that I created Battle was also to go into the Black community, to talk about the stigma of abortion and the weaponization of religion. Yet when I ask different groups, and I'm surprised because some of these folks are supposed to be progressive, Black progressives, I'll say, next time you have a community thing, I want to have a table. Never get called back. Never get called back. I go into community meetings and people will come up to me and say, "Oh, Tina, what you doing now?" I said, "I'm doing abortion work." And they'll look away, look up, look. They don't want to look at me in my eye. It's almost as if, it's catching, like they're gonna, you know what I mean? They just do not want to talk about abortion. And I remind people all the time what Renee Bracy Sherman said, and that is, everybody loves somebody that has had an abortion. In other words, you might not know it, but there's somebody out there that that has had an abortion. That again, it's like, how do you fight God? I've seen people crying in their cars in the parking lot because they're afraid that they're going to go to hell for doing what is best for them. I remember talking to a young lady who had been incarcerated, had a 1-year-old child, and she'd gotten pregnant, and she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. And I just told her, I just said, I can't tell you what to do. This is a very personal decision, but I'm going to ask you. I said, do you have a home for you and your child right now? She says, no, I'm couch surfing. Do you have a job? Well, no, not yet. I said, do you have childcare to take care of the child that you have now and the one that you may have? No. It just shocked me that she was considering having this child, even though she had nothing. She didn't have any of the basics. And, I don't know whether she had family or not. I mean, eventually she did have the abortion. And I saw her like 6 months later, and she threw her arms around me. And I said, did you do the right thing? She says, I did. I did the right thing. But it just boggles my mind. It just boggles my mind. What are you thinking? You can't take care of the one that you have. And a lot of it is because of religious views. They're really afraid that they're going to go to hell. And I don't know how to combat it, other than by saying things like, the big Black atheist yells out, God still loves you. No matter what you do, God still loves you. Or we decolonize the Bible up here, up in this, up in this parking lot. Other than that, I can't.
Abortion's a really hard one to combat. I, say all the time, I haven't told my family that I'm no longer a Christian because I like to. I mean, I know how Black people be. If you don't love Jesus, then you've lost all right to morality. You can't tell me about mine. One of my favorite things to do is to weaponize the Bible against them. I like commie Jesus. Jesus told you to love those gay people. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Are you the Lord? What right do you have to mistreat that gay person? Jesus said the greatest commandment was to love God and then your neighbor. What are you doing? I love doing stuff like that. And if I'm I have no moral standing like, as a non-believer. So I have no problem like lying because yeah, I'm not going to hell. So I don't advocate lying, but abortion is one of the harder ones though, where the Bible clearly says that God doesn't care about you until you've taken your first breath. You can't say that to a mother. It is more. It's more than the religion.
It also we can also argue that the Bible doesn't really say that God cares after you come out of the womb. To be honest with you, especially if you get on His bad side.
Really yeah, I was Catholic. We serve this mighty God.
The argument that they have, though, is thou shalt not kill. And I said, well, kill what?
God kill?
Well, that's what I said. But
right,
that's
God killed.
But that's what I said. He killed his own son.
When it's convenient, God killed.
Right. So, they said it's here, right here in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. I said, but kill what? Kill what? No, I need more elaboration.
Yeah. You shouldn't kill your family.
Yeah. And then I just
your self-respect, like your ability to parent your existing family. Like what? I mean, it is just kill. Period. Kill. And people take that as murder. You shouldn't kill a person, but. We're reading into that. And again, I'm sure any scholar would say, it's you shouldn't kill a person, but like you're killing so much of yourself by limiting yourself in this way. And it's the abortion one, I think especially, is just a conversation you have to take outside of scripture. But certainly we have other things to fight, and people need to understand that they are deserving of love and worthy of respect, regardless of how they choose to live or raise their family, whether it's with their partner or divorced, or if their partner is the same sex, or
I'm sorry if I interject. Another problem that many people tend to have is that they don't necessarily care, or I say but just in general, that people tend not to care about an issue until it directly affects them.
And there's that.
Yeah. So if there's often still this selfish or, just this very myopic view of things until you have to experience it. And that shouldn't be the case. It should not be the case that you actually have to experience, being in a situation where you might have to make the choice to have an abortion before you actually give a damn about it. It should not take for someone to actually experience losing someone to violence before you actually give a damn about it, or for something to happen to either to your parent or your child, to your family member, or to someone close to you. If you have basic human empathy, then you can try to understand what someone is going through without necessarily feeling like you have to be going through it. And it should, but by that time, it's probably too late. So it's, these are basic things that we can try to do. And even going back to, I had the opportunity to counter protest with Tina last year when that Operation Save America group protested an abortion clinic or reproductive justice clinic that wasn't too far from my house in the metro Atlanta area. And this was a clinic primarily run by Black women. And they serviced, of course, women of color. And some of those teenagers were talking about, save the baby. Oh my gosh. I asked them, I said, well, how do you feel about, what do you think about stillbirths? And they got kind of quiet because first of all, they didn't know what a stillbirth was. I said, what is God's plan for stillborn children? If you say that everything is God's plan. And it's not to just like, hey, I got you. But this was to really make you think about it. There are a percentage of babies who die in the womb. So basically, if you want to think about it, God, is it fair to say that God aborted them? Whose fault is that?
Right.
So it's like, and that is a reality.
Special
and
plea.
it's a sad reality, right? It's a sad reality. There are some babies that are either born dead or they die in the womb. Is that the parent's fault or is that God's fault?
Depends
So
on
when
the
I
state you
ask
live
them
in.
that question, yeah, right.
Yeah, that part.
But it's like, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's a
Yeah.
shame that in some cases the woman will be criminalized for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just asking them the question of, because it goes sometimes beyond this idea of, well, you're killing your baby just so you can have this life where you can run around and do whatever you want. No. We were trying to impress upon these young people that this is not an easy decision for people to make. It's not.
No, it is not.
And if it is an easy decision, that's none of your damn business.
That's
And
right.
it definitely is not none of these legislators' business. Because if I guarantee you, I'm not sure if Lieutenant Governor Robinson has children. It would be interesting to look him up.
His wife has had an abortion.
Family.
Just FYI.
Really? That's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Oh,
yeah. So it's like, so it works for you, but it's not supposed to work for anyone else. Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And that is just your basic
Wow.
hypocrisy that I have a problem with a lot of these Republicans now and these conservatives now. Because oftentimes when you dig deep, you find that they have either engaged in or did something that they're preaching against. And so it's like, where's your humanity and compassion for the people who are going through it as well?
I have a question for the panel. And I don't know if my question is fair, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you all think, and this is purely by maybe like your own experience, that the more that you encounter people who happen to be extremely dogmatic, the less humanist or empathetical to their fellow human beings they are? Anybody can jump in and
Wait, can you
say yay or no or
state that
why.
again?
Yeah. Do you think that the more dogmatic people are with their beliefs, that they are more or less empathetical to their fellow human beings, and why?
Less.
I tend to.
And anybody can jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mandisa.
go ahead.
No, I mean, I see it every day. They're less empathetic because they live in this box and they have these blinders on that it is this way and this way only. And I'll say, but this woman has to have an abortion because she has uterine cancer. She has to, or else she'll die. It doesn't matter. She should go ahead and try and have that baby. She needs to save the baby. Save the baby. No, I see less compassion.
Yeah, I would agree, because oftentimes what I see is when people, and I think it is important that we do become issue vetting. Because oftentimes when people speak to what their ideals are, they tend to forget that there are people out there, that people matter, and that and being like individuals, like humanists, atheists, and non-believers and non-religious people, because even though we focus on the evidence, it doesn't mean that we have to lack empathy and compassion for people. Causes are definitely important, but when you simply, like I said, when things boil down to like either a hashtag, or when they boil down to a quote, or when they boil down to, like you said, ideals, and especially especially like, these these ideologies that are not rooted in evidence, you start caring less about people. It's almost like, they seem to disappear. You're not, it reminds me of all of the people who say, well, think about the children. Are you really thinking about the children? And then this is what a lot of these, these anti-abortionists claim. They claim they're thinking about children. They claim that they care so much about family and family values, when the truth of the matter is they really don't, because they're only looking at it from one lens. And so, when people start like really spewing that rhetoric, and especially that dogmatic rhetoric, yes, it does become less it does become less humanistic, and even in some cases inhumane.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to add that a lot of the women that I see that are protesters of it they've all had abortions.
Yeah.
But they feel like this is their way to heaven. If they
Their
can save
their penance, or what,
yes,
what is it?
if they can save this one person, this one child, then they can get to heaven too.
Wow.
I've heard abortion protesters, like almost all of them have that story, like almost all of them. I mean, to the point where, like, I think we've all read the news stories where, a woman will come out of an abortion clinic and then join the picket line. And we're like, wait a minute, but it's like, oh no, I'm exempt for whatever reason. Like they're different than me. And I was trying to look for the study. So my master's is in behavioral psychology, and I know there was a study that came out a few years back that kind of hit the national radar, but it was, and I actually watched, what do you call it, documentary from the researchers too. It was kind of fascinating. I can't remember what it was called, but it was talking about how there's almost this one-to-one relationship. Well, one, the more religious you are, the more conservative, like your political ideology tends to be, which means dogmatic. If you're conservative, if you're conservative religiously, you have more dogmatic views. So the more conservative you tend to be religiously, the more right wing you tend to be. So yeah, the more dogmatic you are, the less likely you are to, like, the more you're inclined to give into that black and white thinking. Murder bad, lock away and throw the key. Abortion bad, lock away and throw the key. Stealing bad. I don't care if it was like milk for her baby, lock away and throw away the key. So yeah, that was the one that made the news like a couple of years back. It's not the only study we have like that, but just time after time after time, we see the more dogmatic your views, the more closed-minded you tend to be, the more your thinking tends to be more black and white. And we also see that more in rural areas. When people move from rural areas to more densely populated areas, they, regardless of how they were raised, tend to be less dogmatic with their views and more liberal, leaning religiously. So, when I say representation matters, I mean that on every single front. We even see this in the workplace with the whole DEI, like why all the companies are doing the DEI thing. It's not to win brownie points with the left. It really does make for a better workplace. You get sued a lot less too. A lot of studies on that. Like when your managers are properly trained on diversity and inclusion, your company gets sued a lot less.
Yeah.
So inclusion, I think, which is why, I fight to communicate why all these CRT laws are so bad. And a lot of people, especially the teachers and teachers unions, are helping that fight a lot. Thank God. But when we see people closed off, when we see people bubbled, we see more of that black and white thinking. We see people being more harsh towards others. Representation and inclusion is key to getting the world to where we need it to be, and which research study after research study after research study has proven, not only in the United States but in other industrialized nations, that happiness increases as well.
It's almost like facts matter.
Imagine
Wow.
that.
Wow. So going back to this whole thing about the 19th Amendment and Mr. Robinson, and I use that loosely because I want to call him something else, but I will reserve that
I
for
can't
when
think
we
of
are
anything to
offline.
call him that's accurate that will not get you demonetized and or banned.
Yeah,
Let's just
exactly.
shut up.
That's why I'm going to keep it kosher right now. Um, I think that like I don't know if we really brought this up. Well, yeah, we kind of brought this up when we were talking about like representation and just saying like, okay, well, I see this guy and he looks like me, so I'm going to go ahead and give him my vote. But, a lot of times if we're not really educating ourselves about who is running in different areas and who is vying for your representation, that they really don't really represent you at all. So, how, and I think that and I'm pretty sure this has been measured. Um, have we seen like women really, saying, okay, well, now that I have the right to vote since like the 1920s, I think that like a lot of women are not very familiar with the women's suffrage movement, nor are they even familiar with how Black women were very much so a part and pushed for rights as well during that suffrage movement, including battling racism and
Within the
sexism
movement.
and misogyny within the movement. It's like we can't never get a break. It goes back to like, when I was asked one time, what do you want for your birthday? I said a nap, regardless. So,
Spoken like a true mother.
yeah, facts. But, how are we really, as women, uh, thwarting our own uh, rights, voices, when we are buying into some of these, policies that eventually will be very detrimental to our health and our well-being. Anybody can go. Yes, we asked hard questions here on Skeptic Haven, Women Atheists Unload.
I don't think, at least for me, I don't
Go
think
ahead, Tina, because
I
you
don't
look
think
like you
it's
got something
Black
on your
women
mind.
that's buying into these policies. I don't think it's Black women. I mean, I see a lot of white women. I'll say, well, why'd you vote that way? Because my husband did. Because my dad did. I've seen a lot of that. My husband told me to vote for. I mean, what Donald Trump got 53% of the white women vote. So
That's true.
They were the ones that carried him over. I don't. When you say women, if you say Black women, nah, it's not us.
Not like white women.
Yeah.
Not white women.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got like I think 10% of the Black vote, and the majority of that was Black men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But even if you look at the voter data, according to Black people, there were still like in the 80s and 90s percentile for Black women and Black men as supporting the opposition party away from Trump. I know that like there's a big thing about, oh well, Black men tend to lean more conservative. And I don't completely doubt that. But they're not as conservative leaning as it is toward as much as white women.
No.
And especially when it comes to like when you said, Tina, well, my husband said it, so I do it. Then my brother said it, so I do it. My daddy said, so I do it. You dig? And I don't know if it's because we're less likely to be married, because we're less likely to have like that centered figure in our family when it comes to like, you know, men. I don't know. I'm spitballing right now, but I think that also when it comes to even, you know, Black women who have a tendency to lean more conservatively, is still not in the numbers where it will make that much of a consequence in the voter area, if that makes any sense at all. I'm being a little clunky with some of my words, but I'm trying to be
Well,
as
I
studious as
mean,
possible.
as Black women, though, we've all felt the effects of white women and their little antics. I mean, I take a very deep breath when I'm around liberal white women. I mean,
Yeah.
really big, deep breath. Yeah, and sometimes I don't want to vote with them.
Red state Dems or something else. I'll give you that.
Huh?
Red state Dems or something else. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I grew up in California, and then I lived in New York for almost 20 years, and then I came down here. It's a culture shock.
Yeah.
It is a culture shock. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so weird because like they're so well-meaning, but like again, everything they've known has been this racist, sexist, like
Yeah, and which goes back to the subconscious thing that I was talking about. You know, people don't realize how much they've embodied that due to traditions, due to what they've been raised to, you know, what they've been raised to believe or how they've been raised to be. And it's sad, again, how many of us still buy into those things blindly. And it's a matter of, again, getting people to recognize that, which can be very, very difficult depending on, like you said, where you are. Because you are in a rural area and without, you know, and you don't have, or you don't have that access to that diverse information, it's going to be harder for you to pick up on. So it really is. I think it's important for us to acknowledge, like, just as Black folks we don't all share the same perspectives. It's important for us to acknowledge that, you know, as women, we don't all share the same perspectives. However, it is important for us to understand the disparities and the challenges that we have against us. I think women who deny that are just, you know, that is very dangerous because, you know, we are definitely, you know, facing things at a deficit more than men at times. So like, it's important for us to acknowledge these things as much as possible and just continue to try to work with those who we know get it. You know, we know that there are, you know, there are going to be some folks that this puts me in mind of Ida B. Wells. You know, a lot of people, you know, really remember who she was and how she was right alongside Susan B. Anthony during the women's suffrage movement, and how even Susan B. Anthony kind of shaded her when she got married and had children. So a lot of that stuff is internal that we're not dealing with, you know, and these are the things that people tend to forget. Unfortunately, we tend to have short memories, which is why we're seeing these cycles over and over again. I'm like, if we learn from history, then maybe these things wouldn't be happening.
It's almost like
it is important for us to.
No, go ahead. We'll finish your thought, and then I was gonna.
No, go ahead.
No, I was
gonna say it is important for us to continue to uplift. No, go ahead, Cynthia. Sorry.
No, the only thing I was just gonna say is like it's almost like that we really should be teaching factual history.
That's all I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
No, and I also wanted to say, I mean, Black women, I mean, I have to bring up, since you brought it up, like the intersectionality, right? How we get like pulled into this like little like crosshairs of like trying to fight for Black men and keep up with white women, and while being disparaged by the media and even the men in our own community, for never being good enough, for being, like, ever since the middle of the century, when we have one of the most influential governments in the world, probably in the history of the world, and a targeted attack against our communities, breaking up our families. Black women have almost been single-handedly responsible for keeping the Black community going. And it's just, we've been walking the walk. We've been towing the line. We've been getting asses in toll booths, or voting booths, God. And it's not, I'm not trying to disparage Black men at all, but they've been fighting their own battles, not on their own, but it's been a harder road. Almost everything they do is harder because of the perception in society. So, I mean, Black women, we work behind the scenes. We work because if we come out, then we get targeted and discredited, for just having the mere audacity to be Black and a woman.
Yeah, with an opinion.
Right. God forbid. Like, that's not valid. Like,
Yeah.
Wait, you're Black and a woman? Like,
And you got
it's
an
almost like you
opinion?
get discredited just for, we get discredited for being one or the other. And we come out and have the audacity to be both with an opinion. It's hard, and I don't know how to explain it. And when we're talking about all this, it's like, to be discredited just for existing.
It's even harder in movement work.
Yeah.
It's
Makes
so
it
much
harder for
in
women for the movement
work.
Yeah.
Because and in the moment something happens up, we have
Man,
the fingers.
That's Stacey Abrams. I don't know. She's got a little too much mouth on her. She's a little too cocky.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can hit
Didn't she tell Black men to shut up and vote? Didn't she say that? Did some case play for reform or something to that effect?
Don't know about the Maori women.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, you said nothing but a word about like being like doing movement work, and then all of a sudden, like, you just hit from the left with misogyny. That's always fun. Speaking
I had
from
to bring
experience.
it up, since we're here.
Yeah.
No, I was just like, oh my God, it took me back a little bit. I'm just like,
But I mean, but that just tells us.
Wait, took you back to the last time you left the house?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And to the beginning of this live stream with Robinson here.
Yeah.
He is the epitome of misogynoir.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right
yeah.
there.
Oh, can I just read just like now that we brought Mark Robinson, I would love, because like, a lot of you all know that I also do like social and economic justice work, especially in in the African American community when it comes to reparations. If you all want to go ahead and put in that one article from the Griot, if you can go ahead and add that for me, please. I'm sharing it on my screen now. Thank you. So this one actually just came out a day ago. Mark Robinson, who said Black people owe reparations, described as a minstrel that could backfire for Trump's campaign. Mark Robinson should make North Carolina a winnable battleground state for Democrats, says Joel Payne, a Democrat strategist. But, I just thought it was just like very interesting when it comes to specifically what he said. But I'm just going to read this one. What is that? A paragraph. Thank you. The 55-year-old political figure and current North Carolina lieutenant governor is controversial, to say at the least. He made an incendiary online statement, like downplaying racism and claiming that Black American descendants of enslaved people should pay reparations. The Trump endorsed gubernatorial candidate also said that Black gang members and Planned Parenthood did more than the Ku Klux Klan to eradicate the Black race. And I'm just going to go ahead and just stop there. Yeah.
I feel like he's in blackface.
Okay, we can go ahead and take that off. You know, what say you ladies? Really call him a minstrel show.
Mm.
Go ahead, Tina. You got
I mean, I hear the what's her name? Sanger, Dorothy Sanger. I think that's her name.
Margaret Sanger.
Yeah,
You're
Margaret Sanger. Yeah,
Margaret.
Yeah,
Sanger,
Planned Parenthood, and I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time. Planned Parenthood wanted to commit genocide on Black people. We're here to save you.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. I see them do that. And I'm like, okay. I mean, this is like, that was them. I mean, that's all I can say.
I watched and I should have had it prepared, but I didn't know that the conversation was going to go this way. But I watched a lady who does like mini documentaries on certain people of interest who talked about Margaret Sanger and specifically her work with the Negro Project and also with dispersing like the pill. Now, well, one of the things that she said, and that some of her friends from Procter & Gamble actually agreed with her, is that a major contributing factor to poverty is overpopulation. So one of the things that they did was they went to Puerto Rico to test out the pill, and also, and since like Puerto Rico in itself was like a poor territory, they encourage women who especially were working to take the pill in order for them not to have children so that they can actually work. But unfortunately, the backside of it is that the birth rate in Puerto Rico today is fairly low. And also too, like, it's kind of like we guys were talking about liberals with good intentions don't always have good outcomes. And that's the same thing with the Negro Project that happened as well. But like, and even like when we look at like maybe if you are doing a debate with somebody who doesn't who thinks that the talking about evolution is of the devil as well, and they always bring up how racist Charles Darwin was. There have been people who may have contributed to the discourse of these very important issues that were not always great and made some terrible missteps, like Margaret Sanger, like Procter & Gamble, like Charles Darwin. But it does not discount the conversation of itself and how that and how like they may have like set like a foundation of what we need to progress upon, how other people who had right intentions and also right work ethic contributed to it in order to make things change for the better. Because if we look at data, and I saw somebody, I think he's like young Black economist or I think it was young Black economist, who said that women who believe in data after my own heart, one of the main reasons why abortion would be more prevalent in Black women is directly correlated to economic and social standing.
Yeah.
Okay. Young Black economist.
100%.
And it's so, and so like, but the very thing that Mark Robinsons and your Mark Robinsons of the world and others of his ilk, I think of the other person that ran in Georgia whose campaign slogan, she was looking to get a congressional seat, but I think was guns, babies, and Jesus. I forgot her name. She's that relevant. But
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, not Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah. She's her own crazy. But no, the lady ran. She didn't make it. But but that was the campaign slogan. Guns, Jesus, and babies. But which they don't, that whole slogan is such a big irony. But anyway, regardless. They still don't champion policies that can fix that. Okay, like if you're so concerned about especially our group being, more prevalent to going to the clinic and actually, taking away a pregnancy, even if it's for the reason they don't, it's not it has nothing to do with if I have this, if I have this child or whatever, I'm going to die. They may just be in the case of, they are not going to have a child. And like you even mentioned before, Tina, about the young woman that was in jail who had a 1-year old and who was pregnant and literally could not afford another child. She couldn't even afford the one that she had. There, unfortunately, that she is not the only one. And there have been so many. Thank you, Candace Taylor, Maya. That's right. Yeah, that's the Georgia lady
Yeah.
who ran on Gun, Jesus, and Babies. But there's so many women, Black women, that suffer from social and economic disparity and have been for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And sometimes when you happen to get pregnant, that abortion is the only choice that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
then,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, people like Lieutenant Robinson will be the first ones claiming that we're welfare queens, that we're just having babies to depend on the system.
Right.
There's the irony and, like you said, the anti-Blackness and misogyny in that. Is that, taking away that choice, criminal. Either way, we're going to be criminalized and demonized and stigmatized.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Go ahead, Maya.
Well, I just always like to point out the irony that the pro-life crew never wants to do anything after they're born.
Right.
To promote pro-life. These are the states that, were giving back money given to them so that they could feed children over the summer, that have the highest rates of infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rates, that have the lowest, that have the highest child poverty rates, and also have the highest or the lowest number of children, percentage of children on Medicaid. It is nuts that they call themselves pro-life when they're also the states that are most likely to still have the death penalty instituted.
Yeah.
So
That's why you say that you're not pro-life, you're just anti-abortion. You're just anti-choice. That's what it is. Like, you don't want a person who has the ability to get pregnant to have decision making skills over their own body.
Controlling people.
It's about that's all it's about.
And it's never been about the children. Like, even when you're looking at these trans bills, where I can't remember where it was, the first bill to probably Texas,
either Texas or Florida. It's always one of the two other, or both,
restricting people, students in state colleges to go to the bathroom of the sex in which they were assigned at birth.
That's Texas.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Adults, really? Adults. It's never been about the children. It's always been about controlling people.
I had a mini debate with a person who is an atheist about that whole thing when it comes to transgender people actually going to the bathroom of their
sex assigned at birth.
Versus the just basically just the way that they see themselves, like their own personal gender identity.
Right.
And and they told me, like, you would care if, and they put it like, if you're talking about a transgender woman, you would care if a transgender woman uses a woman's bathroom? I'm like,
would not care.
No.
Would not care.
I would not care whatsoever. I don't. Why would I care? Well, something can happen. I'm like, something can always happen. And to
What
be
could happen?
I'm
Like what?
something can happen when I just step out to go to my
When
car.
is
I could get
this?
hit
I
by a
mean,
car. Like, you know,
but
this,
I mean, like, when would this happen? Like, we would already see it happening.
right.
Like,
It would be, it's a false equivocation that people
mhm.
who happen to also who identify as transgender are also have a proclivity to pedophilia. And that is just
Right,
absolutely
it's wrong.
Yeah,
untrue.
that's not true.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
Right.
untrue.
If I may interject again, I'm
Yes.
going to recall, something that directly happened in my own house. I was my husband and I were talking one day, and the subject got on trans people, and he's an atheist as well, but he still has a lot of he still has a lot of these very antiquated, to put it mildly, ways of thinking. And so he asked, well, what do you call a person who, like Caitlyn Jenner, for example, what do you call them? I'm like, you call them whatever they tell you their pronouns are.
Right.
And he brought up the whole transgender bathroom thing. And my youngest son said, because he brought up the conservative Christian woman who had an issue with a trans person in the women's restroom when her daughter was there, and he was saying he would have done the same thing, and like, well, why? And my son interjected and was like, Dad, there's no one does that, right? So
This has never
he's
happened.
like, he was like, you're taking something that either a small percentage of people have done, or maybe one in how many trans people who were murdered and tortured and brutalized against against this one thing, and you're taking it and you're he's like, no one does that. And so part of this is even raising our children to be more understanding of what humans go through. And if my own son can recognize that and challenge his father to say, you're wrong on this, you are wrong, then we're getting somewhere. We will get somewhere when it becomes less of what is considered a one gender issue. This impacts all of us.
Right. Exactly. And you would
Reproductive
be
justice
wrong.
Yeah.
And you would be wrong, dear audience members, if you don't go to tiny.url.com/WAUANDBN. Yes, I'm shaming you to donate, because this is the type of stuff. No, I'm messing with you all, but please, this is the work that Black non-believers is involved in. This is the work that we are very passionate about. This is the work that we are contributing to really help spread humanism and skepticism and secularism, especially amongst us in the Black community, who unfortunately have folk who belong in the community that have very antiquated ideas. And earlier, remember when I asked that whole question about do you think that people who happen to be more dogmatic in their beliefs are either more or less empathetic towards other humans? As we can see, it doesn't just stop with believers. Like, you can be an atheist, which is just one position. You just don't believe in a God or gods, but still have very problematic and dogmatic beliefs, and those beliefs drive how you your worldview, and even how you vote, how you lie politically, what you align with. And a lot of times those alignments can be very harmful to people that happen to be in your own community. People with uteruses matter. They really do. And we know that, cis women have capability of becoming pregnant. Trans men have the capability of becoming pregnant. And they all exist in the Black community. Trans women exist in the Black community. Matter of fact, You know, one of the things that I even bring up when I hear these fallacious arguments against trans women using the bathroom of their gender identity is that, especially if they're a Black trans woman, I said the prevalency of them being murdered before age 35 is way higher than the possibility of them committing pedophilia. I said, to be honest with you, if you are more concerned about children being protected against SA, I think you have one place to look at: the church. Okay. Yes. So we have a couple of starred comments that I wanted to go ahead and read off to you guys. This is from Robin Webster. Robin said, I still wear my walking by sight, not faith. Love Mandisa, Maya, Cynthia, and we love Tina too. You just don't know her yet, Robin, but you gonna know her. Donating to my sisters in reason. This is for Haven. Thank you, Robin, for your super chat. And thank you for also giving to Black non-believers. It's very much so appreciated. Every little bit helps. And also we have a $5 super chat from Young Black Economist, who also loves people, loves especially women who believe in data. Listen, Mandisa remembers about a couple years ago when we were on a stream together for over 3 hours, who will remain nameless, when I asked a question to an atheist, and I asked him, do you care about the truth? He, in reply, said yes. And then I asked him, how do you define truth? Because when I define truth, I say what comports to reality, that which comports to reality. And the reality is that people like Lieutenant Robinson is dangerous. People who are of his belief are dangerous. People who run on these extremely problematic talking points, dog whistles, so overt dog whistles. Before, dog whistles was just supposed to be something that only like a covert Christians heard, covert racists heard. Now the dog whistles have become overt and loud enough for everybody to hear. When they run on these things, I don't think that people understand. And I know, and this is something that I had a conversation with a friend of mine when Trump first ran. And you remember the first thing that he said when he came down that elevator and went to the podium is that Mexicans are rapists. That's the first thing that he said. And then it was one thing after another, and one thing after another. Every 2 seconds, this man is coming up with something crazy, and the media ate it up. And everybody thought, oh, he's just being hyperbolic. You know, Trump, he just says things. But when he got into office, we actually saw that what he said is what he actually tried to do. Okay? And so this set precedent for everybody coming after him that came into office, that they were pushing policies for exactly what they said they were going to do. What did Maya Angelou said? If a person shows you who they are, believe them. That in itself deserves
There's too many of us saying that while Trump was running. And I was so tired of hearing, no, he wasn't calling all Mexicans rapists, or we don't know what he's going to do. Like, why don't we just listen to what he tells us he's going to do? Like, why not that? Why isn't that? You don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Like, do you need one when he's saying it out of his mouth?
He said it out of his mouth. DeSantis says things out of his mouth. Tim Scott is kissing butt and saying things out of his mouth. You know, he said America is not a racist country with his South Carolinian black self. How, Slay?
So did Kamala.
Oh, yeah. Well, girl, we're gonna talk about Kamala later. But
Yeah.
you know, but
I'm
we're
not trying to go there, but I'm like, they really
girl,
seem invested in this myth.
right, girl, don't you know, every time somebody bring up Miss Harris, I get triggered. So but she was a candidate too. These people run. Okay, these people run for office. These people are looking for votes. These people are, and they're saying out loud specifically what they will and will not do. Well, you know, I mean, if we're gonna go there, Kamala said that I'm not gonna do anything specifically for Black folk. No, so you know, so this is what she said. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, girl, I heard you, and I don't know if we're really hearing. I don't know, Tina, are we hearing? Tell me if we are or not.
I mean, she almost has to say that with
Does she?
the right, almost. I said
Does
almost.
she? Yeah,
Almost.
does
With
she
the
really?
right-wing narrative, because they're getting a lot of pushback from the right about like catering to Black people. And it's not that they're not, but it's almost like, you know, when I was talking about the intersectionality, there's not really anything that can be done just for Black people. And I don't know
that. I don't particularly agree with that, but you know, but I understand the issues specifically about,
outside
you know,
of a reparations bill, it's going to be really hard to do something.
I mean,
just for Black people.
I mean, even with the reparations bill, it's still hard. I mean, how many times has
we
John
still don't have one.
No, oh no. Well, we have HR 40, which is absolutely horrible. But like, yeah, I mean, but
it's anything at all.
It's been something that has been introduced over and over again since 1989, and we still don't even have like a vote on it, you know. And to be personally, I want HR 40 completely trashed and start anew, you know. But regardless of that, you know, there's going to be times where we can be very specific in how we are dealing with certain groups of people, especially if there has been a long time disparity that has actually affected a people, you know. And I mean, and Congress has done certain, you know, bills and sign things into law, as there has been lawsuits that have gone up forward when it comes to people who have been wronged from a specific people group. The problem is that, you know, when you got like Lieutenant Governor saying that, you know, no, Black people should be paying reparations because our progenitors were what did he say, that they were, because white people freed them from slavery, so we should be paying reparations. And I'm like,
they said that was it Haiti?
Yeah, Haiti actually did pay reparations.
Yeah,
for
a long time.
They were paying reparations to the United States too.
Yeah,
and we see
for their freedom.
Yeah,
they had to buy their freedom. So right. Like, I don't
wait to the United States or to France.
They paid it to France, but they paid money to the United States too.
Oh.
Oof. Yeah, and you see the current state of Haiti in of itself, you know, and that's because they have been completely raped and by, you know, colonization and white supremacy. So, you know, I mean, like, no, y'all can do something specifically, but you know, but the thing because
he wants to see something like that here. I hate these people because it's like in some. Every time I see these people, I'm thinking of like, I can't remember the lady's name, but in The Handmaid's Tale, there's this lady who's been muzzled and put into a home. And she used to be the Laura Ingraham of her day, or, you know, whatever. And now it's just like, no, we decided women to go back in the house. And so she had to do what she'd been pushing other women to do her entire career. And she hated it. And in my head, it's just like, you understand that this is the logical conclusion of what you're fighting for, right? And I think they just don't think that it will be them.
Yeah, I think that it gets to the point where when we're discussing any of these things, because like if you're talking about economic justice for Black folk, who are descendants of chattel slavery, and how uplifting that group specifically will uplift all of America. If you're talking about, hey, maybe we should stop being imperialistic as a nation and actually stop, meddling and overturning other governments so that they can actually be more stable, and maybe we wouldn't have such a huge issue at the border or whatever. If we actually stop and actually do things that make sense, instead of actually, doing these, again, being extremely dogmatic with our beliefs, and also how it like bleeds into policy. I was listening. I'm pretty sure you all heard of Adkisson, right? He used to be a contributor on MSNBC.
Yeah, that was his departure was annoying.
Yes, it was. And especially since he was a very big supporter of Palestine. But I listened to a debate that he did several years ago, I believe at Oxford, where he talked about how, the question was, is Islam pro violence or against violence? And because he is Muslim, he debated that it's not inherently violent. That's what the question was. Is Islam inherently violent? And he voted for it is not, right? And then gave the argument. But one of the things that he gave one argument that I had a hard time with. And one of them is that every person that, committed some type of jihadist performance was doing it because of a political ideology, not a religious one. But my problem with that is that you are then saying that religious belief and political ideology don't go together. And we have seen over and over again where people muddy that water all the time. I mean, matter of fact, one of like the biggest things that's even happening from the the Christian nationalist right is trying to erode the power and the protection of the Establishment Clause. So you can't really make that argument that religious belief and political ideology don't go hand in hand. Those things are completely separate, and the religious ideology does not affect or effect the political ideology. They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And if you have, like, going back to Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who believes the things that he believes, who believes that, transgenderism is filth, who believes in homosexuality is filth, who believes Black people should pay reparations to white people, who believes that we should go back to the time where women couldn't vote. And you can't tell me that his political ideology that he has right now is not being influenced by his Christian ideology, especially when he's saying, a lot of times when he's saying stuff like this, he's saying it in church. Wasn't the last article that, that I brought up, like, how he went to different churches and was saying stuff like this and, riled up people, and then all of a sudden they went to vote for his butt? I'm like, wow, that's something. But
that's a good question.
Yeah,
he's clearly fascist, and I don't mean to step on anyone else, but like, I agree with you. One, I don't know that how you can get a theocracy sans fascism. I don't know what's going on with my camera again. Sorry. It seems like even in oh God, I was reading an article not too long ago where even in India, where the head guy,
Modi.
Yeah, he's actually persecuting Christians with legislation.
Yeah.
Bills like you can't, saying that you can't do faith healing because it's not, I mean, I don't have to tell anybody here why faith healing is bad.
Yeah.
And it could be a good bill, but it's not like he's trying to give health care. Like, they don't have universal health care. So the only, like, a lot of people go towards natural, healing things. Yeah, all those things. Some are better than others, but I understand, what he's actually trying to do with his legislation isn't say, hey, we need you to go see a medical provider. They're actually targeted to come after Christians. And so anytime you see, and this is like he's Hindu. Anytime you see the merging of politics and religion, it ends in fascism. So I hear you. I hear you. Even with the religions that we see to be more, we tend to think are more pacifist. We still see leaning on fascism and fascistic tendencies to rule and to subjugate the people. So, I mean, I hear you there. Whether or not this guy, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it's not religious. He just kind of, I don't know. He really sways me as like a grifter, though. I don't know. I can be swayed another way.
Oh, you're talking about Lieutenant Governor? I mean,
no, yeah, I'm agreeing with you that
yeah,
religion and politics should not mingle, and that you would see what you see with him when they do mingle. I'm just not sold that that's what he's doing. He seems like a grifter to me.
I think that there are people, and we have seen this in our community, especially even during slavery, where folk have a tendency to try to find some type of oasis in white supremacy. And so this could definitely be an inception of that. But there's also this whole mental contortion that one has to implore, in my opinion, when you are going so far to the point where you start to really believe the grift that you are putting forward. And a lot of it, and I think that like it can be informed with, okay, I'm going to find my oasis, and I'm also wanting to, and part of finding that oasis is also being able to have a seat at the table and be in power. Yeah. I agree with that. Not having an understanding of evolution makes it easier to segregate by race and sex. Yeah, because remember there was also, that whole pseudoscience about how like we're trying to justify racism by saying that, oh, Black people don't have as high as IQs as white people, or there was racist tests like the bell curve and things of that nature. And
it had nothing to do with socioeconomic factors. Black people were just naturally stupid.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing to do with you actually taking away resources from our schools that predominantly Black children went to versus white children. But we all paid taxes in order for us to fund those schools. That nothing to do with that whatsoever. But
and I love that the Romani are gaining more attention in the media, because they really are kind of like the Black Europeans, where you see them being the scapegoat and the political targets. And so they're being separated, put into schools that aren't funded. You see higher rates of poverty, theft, crime, period. And then, of course, and then you see the politicians grifting the same way that ours do here with the Black communities. And I'm like, wow, it's almost like people are people. And when you redline them into an area and strip away all the resources, people will act the same way regardless of race or color.
It's almost like, history repeats itself because humans will do what humans do.
History is repeating itself in America right now today.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Tina, I want to go back to a comment that you made about Robinson from one of your comrades in arms, who got a chance to meet him, got a chance to speak to him, and this whole thing about he absolutely believes what he says. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, that's all I knew. She and I, after the election, I had told her, I went to the debate and he was talking all this crazy trash I was laughing. I was absolutely laughing. I was, oh, this clown isn't going to get elected. And then here we were. So she does a lot of legislative work and she's a lobbyist. And she met him and she just said, he believes what he says. He absolutely believes what he says. I mean, there's nothing more I can say about that. I think there's the grifter, but then there's, you know, you can have a grifter and then you can have somebody that really does believe what he said. I mean, how do you fight that? How do you fight it? You know, with grifters, you can see right through them, but I don't see through him. I see a man that really believes and will stand up for what he believes.
He's just one person. And, you know, when people act like that, then you go around them. They, at the end of the day, I still believe he wants money and power. And if more people than not are saying, no, we do want abortion, we do want, you know, healthcare for all, we do want livable wages, they're going to acquiesce. And, you know, regardless of what, you know, it's like it was a Bull Connor, you know, like when, you know, the National Guard is coming in, they step down.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, we'll see what happens in November. Because really, it's really going to depend on what he says next. Hopefully, maybe he'll step in it. You know, he'll just go over. He'll just say that one. I don't know what else he could say. Maybe he's going to say that one thing that'll take him down. But so far, there were far more Republicans that came out to vote, whether it was for him or the other 2 or 3 candidates than for the Democrats, and that's why I'm very worried. And especially now because people, I don't know why people do this, but it's always, I'm not going to vote because of this. I'm not going to vote because of this one issue. And I'm like, you kidding, right? You know, you can hold your nose and make the vote because it will take us back to I don't know what.
To wherever our, you know, our oppressors want us to go.
Well, I mean, you know, I remind myself that I live in a slave state,
Right.
You know, former slave state. And I think that's where they want to take us back. I really do.
Yeah.
But I mean, and for people who don't understand why they should vote, please remember that what they're trying to do is to get you to not vote. Like that's what they're trying to do. It's easier to persuade a smaller amount of people to go along with them than a large group of people. So the more people voting, the more that they have to persuade, the more likely we are to persuade them to rule, I guess is how it feels in our favor. But not voting is not the thing, because, like, I mean, at large point, what we're doing is combating every Trump supporter. For every one of us that doesn't vote, that's one more Trump supporter or one more fascist that whose voice is speaking for you. So either speak with your voice or let someone else speak for you. Not voting isn't going to get the attention of the Democrats. They're not going to come to your front door. I mean, unless you live in a swing state, they're not going to come to your front door. Like, voting is the only thing that you have that will allow them to look at you and to be like, all right, fine, you're hell-bent on voting. What do I have to do to get your vote? And what we need to be doing is not platforming, but primarying them from the left. The way that everybody on the right has primaried centrist Republicans with these crazy Trump supporters, fascist. We need to be doing that with primarying for the left.
Yeah,
that's really what we need to be doing with our vote.
That's what we need to be doing. But I mean, I know. So here in North Carolina, there was a House rep a state house rep that changed who she got elected. And a few months later, she changed parties and she went from Democrat to Republican.
I heard about that. It was a black woman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was a white woman.
It was a white woman. Oh, okay.
Oh wait, yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that was I thought that
Yeah,
happened somewhere
Trish
else
Kaufman.
too.
Yeah, and because of her, they were able to push over all of this legislation, including reducing abortion down to 12 weeks. We were at 19 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So like, these, well, like I know that like a lot of times that people like to talk about like the top ticket, right? The down ballot matters.
Down ballot matters more.
Down matters.
Yeah,
More.
right, because like a lot of times, because like these, state representatives, state legislatures, will affect how your state is ran. Your municipal representatives will affect how your living conditions are. I mean, shit, even the dog catcher will affect you as well. So,
your sheriff, your mayor, your city council,
judges, yes, they all
way
matter.
more.
Judges,
judges.
The judges. That's
but also remember that your senators and your representatives are who crafts the bill. All the president does is sign the bills that your representatives sign,
and they're from your area. So like you have districts that's within your area, and those are the people that you vote for to go to Washington. And it's important that even after they get into office, to be in their faces. Like they have offices in your area, and they even have offices in Washington. And you need and I know that a lot of people don't think it's sexy anymore, but writing letters matters. Showing up and doing appointments matters. Being part of organizations that will, do the work, like Black Non-Believers, which we are going to re-implore you to go to tinyurl.com/WAUANDB to please donate to the work that Black Non-Believers does. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I can speak briefly to the work that BN does. Again, we do community engagement, community activism. We do co-sponsor a student scholarship. We are a member organization of the Secular Coalition for America, which helped put together the Congressional Free Thought Caucus. So if you aren't familiar with the Congressional Free Thought Caucus, it is a group of Congress people, both religious and non-religious alike, who look out for these bad bills that are trying to, that they try to put across in legislation. There's also another organization called the Association of Secular Elected Officials. So if you want to know who is non-religious in your state and on the federal level, and also they will help if you are interested in getting involved in politics. So yes, we are encouraging people to engage those organizations, as a partner organization, because there are people within our membership that are very heavily engaged in politics. We do encourage lobbying. I just came back from a lobby day recently. And so these are things that we bring to the attention of our members and the attention of our supporters. And we need to continue to do that and make our voices heard as to what our issues are and to show how we're working on them. So this is how you support our work.
Right on.
Thank you.
Right on. Yes, that's what's up. And and this is the reason why we are here, guys. Like, even though, like, yes, we're talking about political stuff, we're talking about Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, we're talking about issues that affect people who happen to be minority, affect people who happen to be women, who affect people who happen to own uteruses, affecting people who historically have been othered. And this is the reason why we do the work that we do. This is the reason why we come on here to discuss these issues. This is the reason why there is an affiliate in Chicago. There's an affiliate in North Carolina. There's an affiliate in Philadelphia. There's an affiliate in Atlanta. And
Detroit.
And Detroit, yes, and yes, we cannot forget about Detroit. Matter of fact, I usually go to Detroit every year, and we try to do a cross thing because it's not that far away. So we are here in our local areas doing work, and and we're also partnering with other organizations to do work on the national level as well. And guys, all that takes money. We can't. One of the reasons why, and anybody who really pays attention, especially like to politics, especially in the education field, one of the reasons why we had so many conservative Christo-fascist folk who were able to get school board appointments and school board positions is because other Christo-fascist organizations got together and fundraised for them. They got organized, and they actually were able to put. And one of the things that they were first trying to do, and they've been doing this for over the past 50 something years, is to organize and to gather money to come up with their war chest in order to put their people in key positions. Because even if you look at the stats per se, as far as like people who are either adherers or sympathizers to Christian nationalism, it's still not a very big block of people in the United States, but it's enough that they support people to go into places where their policies and rhetoric affect you as a constituent. So it's so important that, if you think about, excuse me, if you think about ways, oh my gosh,
Bless
I'm
you.
so sorry. Okay, one moment. Oh my goodness, real time. If you think about, if you per se may not necessarily have an organization like in your area that does this stuff, but you still want to help, like, this is a way that you can help. This is a way that you can help turn, certain things around by supporting organizations like Black Non-Believers so that we can continue to do the work and to do it in a more succinct manner. So guys, this has been a great conversation. I really thank you all for being here. Tina, Maya, Mandisa, thank you guys so much for joining us on this very special Saturday of Women Atheists Unload.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, yeah, it was my pleasure. I was like, we need to do something with Ben. I'm going to gather my people because I do my once a month hosting, and this is what I want to do. Right. So, but the folks at Skeptic Haven was ever so obliging and offered to share their platform so that we can really bring up these very important topics, and also, raise a little change, a little ching for Black non-believers in the work that, Black non-believers does. So I'm just going to go around the room and just put in just like final thoughts. And also, if you want to shill more, please do. And then we're going to go ahead and close out. Maya, since you're like down here, I'm going to go to you. We're just going to go.
All right. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I haven't it's a voting year. The only thing I can say is vote. I cannot impress upon you the importance of voting. And I'm not even going to say who you should vote for. Just the more people that vote, the better it is for me in particular, because most Americans do feel the same way. We're just being divided for money and power. So the more people I get, the more I will eventually get what I want. So please get to the polls if you want to see more of me. I have affiliated a little show that I do. It's over here, at my Adkisson on YouTube every Sunday at 9:30 Central. I'm sorry, 9:30 Eastern. We go live, and we have a funny comedic way of debunking science misinformation. And what I like to impress upon people is the importance of knowing what you believe and why, and forming your opinions in fact. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, Maya. Tina, why don't you go ahead and go next?
Like Maya, vote. Please vote, and especially if you're in North Carolina. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for either, but you should know by now after this show. And I'll also add that be careful of the people that tell you not to vote, because I find that those are the people that will be least affected by whoever wins on either side. So be careful. Be careful about those people, because they don't have your best interests at heart. So please vote, vote, vote.
Thank you, Tina. And then Mandisa.
Yes, of course, I echo Maya and Tina in saying, please do your civic duty, especially this year, and vote vet your candidates, vote by evidence, vote by your humanist values, and that should determine the outcome this election, especially in November. Please do, if you want to look up the Association of Second Elected Officials and the Congressional Free Thought Caucus, there are resources out there to help you vet those folks. And so, yes, we are in a very critical year. And don't let, once the big headlines go, the work still continues. So please do continue, please do support all of the work that we do. BN's work falls in line with reproductive justice, economic justice, evidence-based critical thought. So yes, we are very, very well-rounded. And thank you to Tina, Cynthia, and Maya for helping support all of this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I echo everybody on here. And I'm also going to say one more again, please go to tinyurl.com/WAUANDBN and donate to Black Nonbelievers and the work that Black Nonbelievers does as creating and fostering community, believing in evidence-based policies versus somebody's never mind, and also supporting other and partnering with other organizations so that we can create a better society. Black Nonbelievers is about all of that and holding space for folk that is coming out of religion. So it's so important that we are able to raise money for the organization so that we can continue the work that is before us, and we can do it with your help. And thank you to the last super chat that we got for $9.99. Thank you, ladies. We're all counting on you. Well, guess what? We're counting on you too. We're counting on everybody that is listening to us under the sound of our voices to also contribute to Black Nonbelievers. You should go up here. You can see the tiny URL for you to go to. It's down here scrolling, the tiny URL for you to go to. Even when we're done with this live stream, the link for you to go to donate to Black Nonbelievers will still be up and running. So please, 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 please support. Please, 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 please vote your interests, not because of a party. Okay. Yes. And when you listen to what people say, as Maya Angelou said, believe them. Okay. Don't get me to doing Phenomenal Woman. Don't get me to do it. With hand gestures and everything. Now I ain't gonna do that to y'all. But again, thank you all for watching Women Atheists Unload this very Saturday afternoon. Make sure you do all the things that we just asked for you all to do. And we will see you again next week with another panel, with another host, with another show. And we just thank you so much. Mwah. Bye-bye.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.